Did it go? Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's another edition of Let's Talk Broncos. We're back. We are rolling every Sunday, as you guys have been getting this off season. Super fun stuff. Rookie mini camp is here. I am more happy than ever not to be a fan of the Cleveland Browns. With the rookie mini camp it's a shit show out there, honestly. The Broncos one, it seems like it's a lot like of a tighter ship. It's not as much of a media frenzy. I'm just excited to see how the rookies are doing. And I'm happy that we're not breaking down every single clip and being like, oh, how's Dylan Gabriel doing? I'm happy, man.
And you got a field level view of like mini camp drills where they're going up against guys who aren't even UDFAs, guys that are just there for rookie mini camp tryouts. Yeah. And then you see beat writers, not in Denver because they can't really tweet out clips, but Cleveland and in other areas making sweeping determinations on players based on like the most meaningless practice reps there are. So, this is them installing stuff, learning what the routine is like at the Broncos facility, and like just learning the ropes. So when the vets get there, everyone can just hit the ground running. No one's really doing that in Denver, but I have seen some people being like way too dramatic about what's happening in rookie camp, and everybody just hold off on any takes, I'd say, until at least training camp.
So I think you said it right. Let's set the stage for it. I think mini camp for these rookies, I mean, we've all had a job, right? Your first, second day on the job, you don't know what the hell's going on. What is it? It's the same thing. It's training. That's pretty much what these guys are going through right now. In your day job, when you're training for your new job, that's what these guys are doing. It's installing. It's getting familiar with things. That's the importance of rookie mini camp. That's why they're earlier than the vets, because they need that installation so that they can go and hit the ground running when training camp does come around. It's just getting familiar with things in the facility, with the playbook, with coaches' expectations, things like that. Is the main point of this. It's exciting to see, our Broncos back out there. I think there are some things. It's like, man, he looks bigger than we thought. There's certain things that you can pull.
Harvey's quads are goofy, man. I don't know if you've seen the photos.
He made Chris Sims all leg and ass team this offseason. So he has a team for that every year, the rookies, and Harvey was the running back for that one.
That's great. Yeah, I think it's just like you said, orientation, and then like rookie bonding and camaraderie. I think that's really all they're getting out of it.
Yep. Well, I think some other things we can get out of it are, Zach, are these rookies, and we get to see them in the pressers. This is our first time get to see them talk to Broncos media, see how they interact with our media, see what our media can pull out of these rookies. And I kind of want to get into some of these. We're going to react to 4 clips before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. This first one is Jade Baron kind of speaking about getting to know the other rookies on the team and, bonding with everybody. So let's play that.
I mean, right now we're in a hotel together. We're always together. So, that kind of forms it. But it takes a personal level for you to go talk to those guys, get in the cold tub with those guys and just enjoy it. But we're all enjoying the process. We're all truly blessed to be here, undrafted to drafted. Everybody has the same opportunity, the same chance to be somewhere where they want to be in life. So just to take full throttle on what you have the opportunity to do is just amazing. So everybody's just here trying to control the controllables. But we're here all day. We're eating together. We're just in meetings together. So we're just having a good time.
Zach, I think what this one kind of just points to is the type of person you're getting with Jade Baron. I think you're getting an excellent locker room guy. Even going to the media and being one of your first statements is just how much you're enjoying your teammates right off the bat. It speaks to some of that leadership stuff that we were talking about, not being shy, not going in there and being like, hey, I don't know who to interact with, who I don't. He's going in there and trying to make friends right away with the locker room. It's a small thing. It's not a huge thing, but something that kind of shows it's part of the reason why he killed those pre-draft interviews. That's something everyone always talks about with Baron is, man, you had him in those interviews and he killed every last one of them.
Yeah. And you got to see some of it too when he was interacting with Harvey. I think after they were done talking with Baron, they talked with Harvey, and he joined the media, and was like, "Why do you have to juke out Jade Baron like that?" Talking in the third person, and got Harvey to crack up with it. And I don't know. I just think the character, obviously, that's been something that's been talked about a lot coming out of the draft, but now we're getting to see it for ourselves. And just as someone who's been in these scrums, been in the locker room and everything, players don't always act that way. Like, some players are more reserved. Some players are straight up uncomfortable and don't, more introverted. Right. And I think you can see already, like, RJ Harvey has a good personality. We'll get to some clips in a second here. Pat Bryant, his victory lap is saying in the comments, that looks great. He's very affable. And Jeremy Crawshaw, we interviewed him on KOA. He was very affable. I'm sure it goes for the rest of the bunch too. They clearly have a vision in terms of the type of people they're looking for in the draft.
Yep, absolutely. Well, to the football player, we just got a sneak peek on him as the person. The football player, Sean Payton, spoke about that.
For 2 days. Well, the same things again. We're putting in some base coverages. I would say exactly what we saw on tape: smart, savvy. If you're watching closely, some people transition and stop very quickly. He's got really quick twitch. It's a sticky in coverage, but I think he's one of those players that already at a young age understands splits. I worry sometimes with the corners that defend. If you're defending every route, you're defending no route. And he's real savvy as to a tight split. He eliminates 80% of what could be run. And so, man, you feel a veteran player.
This clip is from Luca Evans of the Denver Post. Zach, what did you get from that one?
Yeah, I think you just one, the testing thing I think stands out, or not testing, but the agility, the short area quickness, the stop start ability stands out, because that's the one testing data point we didn't have on Jade Baron. He didn't do any of the agility testing throughout the process, which did surprise me because it did look good on tape. The fact that coaches are seeing it and it's looking good now in practice. And of course, these coaches lie. I think to specifically go out of your way to point it out after the first practice, it's one of the first things you highlight with the player. I don't think you're highlighting a point of weakness as a point of strength like that. Like, I don't think that's the type of lie you see in these press conferences. So I think that's nice to hear that, not that it was a major concern, but just a question mark I had that I feel more secure in now. And then, I think it just confirms kind of what we thought about the player already. The last clip, we talked about how we thought Baron was this great guy. This clip kind of evidences it. Well, we thought Baron had a high football IQ, had great instincts and feel for the position. And, after 2 practices, Sean Payton is praising it to the media. And Payton's not a guy, like, outside Bo Nix, he's not a guy who's super effusive with his praise towards players in the media.
No, he's definitely not. He's one of those guys I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't know the names of some of the bottom of the roster guys, or definitely some of these UDFAs. He's going to be, hey, 56. That's how he's going to be addressing some of the dudes out there. But, I think what stood out to me is speaking a little about how he plays like a vet. I think that's what most stands out. And it's noticeable on tape, but to hear it early while you're in rookie mini camp, it's high praise from your coach. I think a lot of the time you go in with these rookies and you expect it to be a learning curve right off the bat. So for him to be, hey, he plays like a veteran player at the end, it's a big deal. I like that quote. Let's move on to RJ Harvey, though. We got 2 clips from RJ Harvey as well, or about RJ Harvey. We'll go to the first one. It's Sean Payton talking about him in pass pro.
About trust when it comes to pass protection and running back. So at what point will you be able to know that you trust Harvey in pass pro? Does it take all the...
Yeah, well, when you think about this, and look, Sproles, Kamara, there's a lot of different backs we've had that we can create different protections to make sure that the matchup's right. we'll have a handful of different, because I know the question, is he a 3-down back? Well, he's going to play on 3rd down. And then, but he could play on 3rd down where the tight end is in protection. So there's a lot we can do relative to really suit his strengths. And it would happen occasionally with Darren where, I'd say to him, hey, every once in a while you might get matched up on Navarro Bowman or Willis. And I'm not going to make a habit of doing that. But if you watch his stature, and he's put together pretty well. So there's a difference between a small runner and a short runner. We're not interested in the small runners, but we're okay with the short runners.
That question's from Andrew Mason. I got to give him credit on that one because that's a good question. That's something I think everyone is questioning with the draft pick mostly is, okay, so what are you planning on doing with him on 3rd down? Now, I found this interesting because, he brought up, Zach, about, hey, we can do different things, right? It's not all the time the running back has to be the extra pass protector back there. We could keep the tight end in. And, he brought up, oh, well, that's what we did with Alvin Kamara and Darren Sproles, and we've done different creative things like that. It makes a ton of sense. But with that, the way you validate doing that is if RJ Harvey is a real deal pass catcher. That's how you validate that.
Yeah.
Because you're pulling in your tight end, who is a pass catcher most of the time. And you're using your running back as the pass catcher. You have to validate it somehow. I find it interesting. It's curious because the pass catching stuff, he has all the tools and makings of a really good pass catcher in the NFL. I think he just wasn't utilized as that type of guy at UCF. So it's a projection, but clearly the Broncos are putting him in that bucket. He's being mentioned with Sproles and Kamara, which I find interesting.
Yeah, and we'll have another clip here in a second, but Peyton and him sat down and watched Sproles and Kamara tape together. So clearly Peyton's trying to kind of hammer this into him too, not only mentioning it publicly to the press. So yeah, I think that's the role they're going to have him in. He seems to be the Joker. I hate to say it, but
No,
I think
tiring that one.
I know that's been such a headache, but yeah, I'm excited to see that this season. His impact in the receiving game, and it is a projection, but I think what you saw at UCF is really promising. He, I think, only had one less target. It's one less or one more target than Travion Henderson last year. Who's described as a like ready-made pass catching back, and he might not be quite at that level, but I think it looked pretty good. From a route running perspective, not that he's running like super advanced things, but you see him cut well. I think on angles, he can run a wheel down the sidelines. He tracks the ball well. I think he's a fairly natural catcher of the football. So it is a projection there, but I think it's a fairly safe bet. And the part of that clip I really loved is what he said at the end with the, we're not interested in small backs, but short backs we don't mind. And that's important to remember with RJ Harvey. He's from exactly. From a height and weight perspective, he's not that different from Ashton Genty or Travion Henderson, who are the two best pass protecting backs in this draft class. He's not the pass protector that they are, but it's not because he doesn't have the physical ability. And look at the quad photos. I know we mentioned it before, but like that's a guy who can set up a solid foundation or like a solid base to like plant, anchor, and help some as a blocker.
Well, I think like the part that people need to realize about this is too, like being shorter at running back is usually a good thing. It's just usually when you're shorter, you're weighing less as well. Where it gets a problem is honestly the opposite direction. If you could be too tall at running back. You don't want a running back running straight up and down. That's not what you want. You want someone that's able to run behind their pads. Like so many of these shorter, Sean Payton used one. Mark Ingram is a great example. Would we describe Mark Ingram as a small running back? No, he's just a shorter running back. Is CJ Anderson, would you describe him as a small running back or a shorter running back? Yeah. Like there's these guys, it's honestly a good thing when they're shorter because it's harder to get a hit on them. It's harder to chop their legs. Like I remember,
His
Oxygen.
contact balance. He's got better leverage because he's so short and like this fucking fire hydrant.
It's the best example I have of the straight up and down running. Whenever I think of it, the guy comes in my head. You remember Ryan Matthews on the Chargers?
Yeah, the San Diego State guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Matthews was the most straight up and down runner I feel like I ever saw, man. And what came with that? A shit ton of injuries. Same thing with Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden, straight up and down runner. When they get in open field, they are going, right? But man, they are easy to chop down from the legs. You want a guy that's able to run behind his pads and protect himself, fight for those extra yards and stuff like that. We have another clip here, though. Let me pull it up real quick. It's RJ Harvey now talking about the roles.
I want to be like those guys, like Darren Sproles. Like he went crazy with the Saints. Kamara too. So I want to be better than those guys. So I'm gonna work to, work every day, get better, and just prove myself to all the vets and the coaches, and I want to make a immediate impact in this league. So.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. It's really interesting you brought up how Sean Payton was watching the film of those guys with RJ Harvey. Kind of shows you, right? I don't think Sean Payton's sitting down to watch the film with any of the other guys past RJ Harvey. maybe a little Pat Ryan, right? But like it shows like, oh, you have a real place here. This is I'm envisioning you in this offense, and this is the role right now. I'm envisioning you in it. Get used to it because this is your role. And it's just taking time out of your head coach's day to watch film with a rookie right away is pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. And I also love at the end him talking about, wanting to and looking forward to making an instant impact in the league right away, because that's what the Broncos are going to need from him. They're going to need him to be a very large part of this offense right away. He, as a rookie, they're going to probably ask for him to contribute 1,000+ yards, and 1,000's probably on the lower end there. How many players in this offense are going to generate 1,000 yards? Sutton, probably, you'd figure. And then who else would you really guarantee beyond that? Like RJ Harvey could easily be the number 2 weapon in this offense. So going to need to be an instant impact player. I think he's got the potential to follow through on that promise. So yeah, I can't wait for even the preseason to get here. I think running back is one of the positions in the NFL where you can spot it the quickest, even sometimes in the preseason, just like this guy has it, this guy doesn't. And so I just can't wait to, get our eyes on RJ Harvey. I hope it's positive.
Not training camp,
no, not training camp. Yeah, I see the.
I'm gonna emphasize this right now before everyone. If I see you people going out there talking about, RJ Harvey's actually going to be the one that looks
it's
great.
It's going to be Estime. It's going to be Estime because there's going to be no tackling or whatever, and it's going to be because Javonte always struggled in camp. That's what it was. Yeah, so
quote unquote struggled. It was just like, no, he's a fucking bowling ball, dude.
It's not his game. Yeah, there's no contact in that. RJ Harvey's going to be electric. He's going to look like Barry Sanders in training camp.
I'll tell you, man. If you guys ever played high school football, you know exactly what I'm talking about. In the non-contact practices before the season began, you had that one dude on the team that was really small and was hitting the craziest jukes on air you ever saw in your life. You're like, damn, he's going to be so good. And then the moment contact starts coming around, it's a little different. Montreal, Washington, number 1 example in the whole world.
Yes. It was like, damn, they might have found something here. And then it's like, they did not.
No, he's just crazy at juking the air. That's what that one is. He's crazy and he makes it look good. Anyway, so now that we're done with the clips here, what Zach and I want to do is we're going to go down the rookie class. We're going to start at pick 1. We're going to kind of project their role. Are they starting right away? What type of season are they going to have as far as like production, different things like that. Zach, so did I make that clear, Zach? Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And also really quick, people watching after the fact or in the live stream, let us know if you liked the clips off the top. I think we might do more of that, as we start getting more interviews with these players and everything. But if you guys don't enjoy it, we won't do it. So let us know one way or the other. But yeah, I think now that they're starting to get on the field, we can start to figure out how these guys might impact the team in 2025. And I also think trying to look at the roster and just like the path to playing time for all these players is really important for, just what kind of impact they'll have and what their path to development and, role with the team might be. Like Jeremy Crawshaw, not to get way ahead of us here, but Jeremy Crawshaw is going to have one of the biggest rookie impacts on this team, despite being the second to last pick. So I think
he already won his job.
Like that's helpful. Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. All right, let's get started right at the top. Round 1, pick 20, Jade Baron. We watched the clips. Sean Payton described him as a player that reminds him of a vet right away as a rookie. Zach, I think this one's pretty simple. I'm going to just say he's a starter right off the bat. Now, role is where I think there's a little discourse I've seen online on where do you play him? Is he an outside corner? Is he a nickel corner? Is he kind of a hybrid? I've even seen some people say, man, maybe he plays some safety. That was something that I saw popular come out of the draft when he was coming out of the draft. I think what you see here from Jade Baron, I've said it on the podcast before, but for those that haven't heard it, I think he's going to be in a similar role to what Trent McDuffie plays in the Chiefs, where in base, so base two corners, right? You don't have a nickel in there. You don't have an inside corner. He will be an outside corner opposite Patrick Surtain. But the moment you hop into any sub packages, so nickel, dime, anything like that, you're going to see him play the nickel spot. Riley Moss play the outside. I think this, for a variety of reasons, I just think he projects better as a nickel corner than living on the outside due to some of the length concerns. And then also, if he had one weakness, it was getting beat deep down the sidelines. And I think being in the nickel, he could be a headsy player. You want him around the line of scrimmage with his tackling. Van Joseph is going to blitz him. If you went back and watched his junior tape, Texas blitzed him a ton from that nickel spot. So that's something that translates to the Broncos right away. So that's kind of the role I see him in. Zach, do you agree with me?
Yeah, I think that's the role we're going to see, but I do think it's something worth monitoring throughout camp, because there's also the path to play potentially at safety, because McMillan is a solid nickel option. They might have faith in there. We know that second linebacker spot is a big question mark. Do they feel like, hey, in certain situations, maybe like clear passing situations, rather than putting Singleton out there next to Greenlaw, let's put like a coverage guy out there. So let's have Hufanga be that player next to Greenlaw, and we can have Baron take Hufanga's spot at safety, because he should project fairly well at safety. Didn't do it in college, but it should be something he's able to do pretty well. Is he better there? Is he better at boundary? I think that's going to be a determining factor in terms of how many snaps he plays. Jaquan McMillan last year, healthy for all 18 games, was like a true, pure nickel cornerback. He played 900-ish snaps, just around 900. Surtain played around 1050. There's probably 1,200 or so defensive snaps out there. So it's just, where does it fall in that range between like 75% of the defensive snaps and 100% of the defensive snaps? Moss being a guy who's also, closer to that like 100% line. How much are they using him as a rookie, I think, is the biggest thing to watch for, because he has so many different avenues to potential playing time. I bet he's out there for 90+% of the snaps he's healthy for.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's silly to do stats for defensive players, really. Maybe edge rushers, we could do like sacks or something like that. I think for a corner, though, I feel like it's silly. I'm not going to make any in a really great world, guys, honestly, well, I guess he's playing closer to the box, so he will get more tackles. But I was going to say, at corner, I don't want much production. The only production I want are PBUs and INTs. That's about it.
And I think, and I fully agree, I think it's different, I guess not that point, but in terms of, we might be calling Baron's name a lot because he's playing next to Surtain. Normally it is the a corner's doing their job if you're not hearing, from them a lot, cliche. He could be doing a great job and we'll still hear his name called plenty just because he's not Pat Surtain. So I think that's going to be something I'm interested to watch too. I think, yeah, like you said, we can't really do stats. It's going to be more roles. I think he's going to be that nickel guy, bounces around some at boundary, some at safety in base defense looks, and then he probably I think he plays that role pretty well as one of the better defensive rookies in this class. Being a corner, I don't expect him to get too much rookie of the year buzz, but I think he'll be one of the better defenders in this class.
That'd be sick, man. The Broncos just what they need to add to this pass defense, right? They already had such a great pass rush last year, especially in those third and long scenarios where their edge rushers could just pin their ears back. Just adding a corner is only going to help. Adding another cover guy. George Payton says it all the time. You can't have enough cover guys. I think that statement is a lot of ways true. Let's move on here. RJ Harvey, right? We also watch clips of him. Round 2, pick 60. Zach, I think the idea of starting running back, people could get that confused, especially in the Broncos where it's kind of be a split backfield. But I think RJ Harvey eats a healthy amount of snaps for this running back team, or for this team at running back. I think he eats a very, very healthy amount of snaps. I think the most on the team, if he starts all, or if he plays in all the games, is healthy the whole year. For me, Zach, I've been thinking about what my projected stat line for him would be. Let me know if I'm off base here. I'm looking at this as somewhere around 900 yards rushing and then another 300 yards receiving. Am I off?
Sorry, say that again. 900 yards rushing and 300 yards receiving.
Yeah, am I off?
I don't think you're that far off. I was pulling up the stats last year from last year's backs to see what they had. They had about 350 carries to the running backs last year, maybe a little under that, like 340. It was a weird backfield situation, though. They probably weren't going to run it as much as they wanted to if they had a better running back situation. We don't know if that'll be the case this year. Hopefully it is.
I'll tell you right now, if the Broncos feel comfortable in RJ Harvey, the Broncos will run the ball more than they did last year. Many games last year, Zach, those wide receiver screens were just in there because the Broncos didn't have any faith in their run game at all. It was wide receiver screen. They were using this as an extension as the run. So I would bet heavy that the Broncos run the ball more if RJ Harvey is worth the pick here in the second round.
Yeah. I think Javonte Williams was getting 550 this recent year, and he was benched effectively the last 3-4 games of this year. And he got 750 in 2023 when he was also fairly ineffective. I think Harvey can get you, up to 900 there. The 300 rushing yards is also in line with Javonte had even 2 years ago when he was competing with Samaje Perine for that role. Perine had nearly 500. Javonte had 350 last year. So I'd say maybe, if anything, the rushing number might be a little high. The receiving number might be a little low. Yes, it's a projection, but if Javonte was getting 350 receiving yards in this offense last year when he was just catch a check down and fall over guy, I think, because Harvey can take those on occasion, 20 yards, 30 yards, maybe something like 850 and 450 might be more of a line. 450 is getting up to where Perine was, 850 and 400 or 900 and 400, something like that.
Is it crazy to think that he could have around Perine though? I don't know. If the way they're talking about him, it's man, they're gonna really, really, really get this guy the ball in the receiving game.
It's just, and I fully agree. The Perine numbers are just, that was so weird. I'm just that's not happening because it was just wait till the defense goes into prevent and then just check down to Perine your way down the field, which was crazy. But I do think he is so dynamic after the catch. He can create some explosives in the passing game. I think, he probably gets over 400 receiving, around or over 400 receiving yards.
That'd be awesome, man. And one thing about RJ Harvey too, I've seen, I think some people, here's my issue with especially the Darren Sproles one. This was a sub package type of running back. This was a guy that was in there for specific packages. I think RJ Harvey is less the receiver than Alvin Kamara, but more the runner. But what I'm trying to say is that I think he is he is a lot more of a every down back than a Darren Sproles was in his career. I mean, like this is where it starts to become what Sean Payton said earlier in the clip that we played. He's not a small running back; he's a short running back, and he's proved it through his collegiate career. This is a guy that got a ton of carries, a ton of carries, 226 carries in 2023 and 232 carries in 2024. I mean, the guy was their horse back there at UCF. He was the guy, their lead back, ran the hell out of him. And stayed healthy. He had an injury early in his career, and then came back and for 2 years in a row was a horse for the Golden Knights. So I don't think that it's an issue of, hey, we can't get him the ball a lot. His body won't be able to hold up through it. I don't think that's RJ Harvey's game. I think the Darren Sproles thing is a little disservice if you're using it as a comp, I think.
I'd agree. I fully agree with that point. As for like projections for this year, I think he could push for offensive rookie of the year. I think there's some clear people that will be favored ahead of him, and for good reason. Ashton Genty, we all know why. Cam Ward, because he's a quarterback. I think he's got a great chance. Amarian Hampton in that Chargers offense that's going to give him 300 carries this season. I think he's got a great chance to compete for it. After that, though, I think Harvey, not that he's maybe the fourth option, I think he's in a similar tier with everyone out of those after those top three. When you look at the line he's going to be able to run around or run behind, and just like the running ecosystem he'll be in, and the talent he has, where I think it could really, really pop to maybe we're talking about 1,000 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards, or 1,100 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards, which isn't that dialed up from what we were just talking about with like our realistic conversation, and would be right in line with what got Alvin Kamara offensive rookie of the year. So I wouldn't say he's the guy I'd pick to win it, but I would not be surprised at all if we're in December and Broncos fans are talking about RJ Harvey, how like Bucks fans were about Bucky Irving last year, being like, this guy deserves more love for offensive rookie of the year, what he might not have necessarily been getting at.
One question I have for you, Zach, on this, I think it's kind of interesting. The most carries Javonte Williams had in a year was 217. That was in 2023, so Sean Payton's first year as a head coach. To break that down, he was averaging around 13 and a half carries per game. Do you think that is attainable for RJ Harvey? Do you think over under Javonte Williams' career high in rushing attempts?
Man, I mean, the smart money would be on the under, right? He is typically hesitant to trust rookies. We're talking about the career high of a different player who was already more established in the league, even if he was struggling. So the smart bet would probably be under. I think it's extremely achievable for him to hit that, maybe even go over it, though, because who is competing with him for those touches? Maybe Audric Estime, but he struggled to leech them from Javonte last year. If Harvey lives up to, I think, Peyton's pre-draft expectations, I think they will feed him a lot. In terms of total carries, it probably will be under that. In terms of total touches, I'd bet it's over that.
Okay. I like it. And again, RJ Harvey, the last 2 years of college football, had more carries than Javonte Williams has had in his career as an NFL player, just to kind of show you that he is a workhorse for those guys. Anyways, round 3, Pat Bryant, wide receiver, Illinois. This one's a little interesting, Zach. What do you see here for him in his role?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a smaller role, admittedly. Just because how many snaps do you ultimately have to go around, in that receiving room? Not that like it's stacked with A+ options right now, but I do think it's fairly crowded. I think there is room he could make up, though, just because Lil Jordan Humphrey's gone for now, at least. We'll see. But Lil Jordan Humphrey's gone. That's 550 snaps. It's how the slot snaps get broken out is going to be really interesting. And then I think also he'll rotate some with Sutton and probably play some at the X. I'm trying to see. Troy Franklin played 400 snaps last year, and then wasn't very productive. I'd say that'd kind of be my floor for Pat Bryant. I think Pat Bryant's much more of a Sean Payton receiver than Franklin. Franklin spent what 2/3 of last year, 3/4 of last year, it felt like, in the doghouse where like he couldn't even get on the field.
Then we
Whether
start
that was
way too much all of a sudden.
yeah, no kidding. But like just could not get on the field. And so I wonder, like, I think at least like I'd put the floor around what Troy Franklin's role last year, which was what 30 receptions for 300 yards and then the 3 touchdowns. I'd say he's very similar there. Is going to be used in a very different way, of course. And then you're also going to see him more in the run game. He's going to be a very impactful blocker on this team. Wide receiver 2 might be a little rich for me. I think if Sutton and Valet are probably the top 2 guys. And that's also why it's tough for Bryant. Like, what is Bryant? Either the X or the big slot. Well, who are probably the Broncos' 2 best receivers, like true wide receivers, Sutton and Valet, who are like X's or power slots. And then if you wanted to say 3, you probably throw in Evan Ingram, who, as we talked about, who plays some inline, but he's kind of that power slot type too. So how many of those snaps can Bryant pull away?
Yeah, they're going to be broken up, and I think Evan Ingram eats most of those. I think like a good portion of that. I think Evan Ingram works because I have a really hard time in a Sean Payton offense seeing Evan Ingram playing many inline snaps over Troutman, who's just the much better run blocker there, or just blocker in general. I have a hard time seeing it. I don't think it helps your run game at all with Evan Ingram in there as your inline tight end, and you're getting the same matchups when he's a power slot. So I think, and then if I have him at the power slot, he can be a useful blocker. I can use him as just kind of a space player, like little Jordan Humphrey was last year, right? You saw little Jordan Humphrey beat effectively what was like their move tight end in a lot of scenarios, which is what Evan Ingram would be in that. Okay, now I'm out in the power slot. Now I'm moving. He has me motioning around. I'm blocking in space. That's going to be Evan Ingram's role. Pat Bryant's going to be interesting because of that. That's kind of where I envision Evan Ingram getting most of his snaps. So it's interesting. I think he's a talented player. I think he's a guy that Sean Payton's really going to like and want to get on the field a ton. With that being said, like, I don't think I see Pat Bryant taking many of the snaps at outside wide receiver at either X or Z this year.
No, I do think this is why it's important that Mims develops better as an outside receiver. Now, he can be a good player without doing that, but there are a lot of guys to feed that are maybe best utilized in the slot in this Broncos offense right now. And so I do think a big way to to fix that problem, or to help alleviate that problem, I wouldn't fix it, but to help alleviate it, would be if Mims proves he could be primarily used outside. Awesome. Sutton's the X, Mims is the Z, and then you have this platoon of varied power slot options that we know Payton likes. And I think that's a group he'd be happy with. Let's roll. But yeah, it is interesting. To your point about him kind of being that move tight end guy, I think, he can be a mismatch weapon for Payton, which we know he loves on the inside, but in the sense where, hey, if you put a cornerback on him to, because he's not the fastest mover, you put a nickel on him to try and lock him down in coverage, he's going to bully the shit out of that guy in the run game. You put a larger body on him to help in the run fit, and he can maybe abuse them in the passing game. So I wonder if that gets utilized for Payton.
No, and I even like him competing on the outside snap, Zach, I think Valet takes more of those than he does. I think Troy Franklin as the Z takes more of those than Pat Bryant does. I think Marvin Mims, I think he's kind of buried more there. It's hard to see. He's going to have to climb.
You think Franklin will outsnap him? You think Franklin will outsnap him this year?
No, because I think Pat Bryant is more utility. I think I could play him at more spots than I can Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, if it's in a scenario where I'm looking for a Z, I could see Troy Franklin being the preferred option over a Pat Bryant. That's kind of my point. Like, if I'm looking at him at those spots, it's hard to see him climb up the ranks there. I think even like the big slot. Did you mention Trent Sherfield? Like that's a guy.
No, that's the other thing. He's also going to be probably taking some snaps there. I think they've added so much. He'll be largely special teams, but he's a good enough blocker. I bet he sees some work.
Well, and you know what? If he goes out there and has like a really good training camp, I don't see like Trent Sherfield's not taking Pat Bryant snaps if Pat Bryant is just really good out the gate, right? Like that's something we have to anticipate for as well. Or even I could see it being a situation where Sherfield looks amazing out of camp, and it's like, man, Valet looks like Valet, but Pat Bryant looks damn good. He might have to take some of those snaps. You know, training camp can change some of this stuff. I don't think this. While I'm saying all of this, it's a tough climb up, but none of these guys outside Cortland Sutton are good enough right now to be like, if Pat Bryant, no one's keeping him down. He can climb his way up if he's just really good. Like that's something that could happen.
Certainly. I do think he's got a tougher path though than Franklin. And I agree. I think he'll outsnap Franklin this year. But at Z, like just looking at the Broncos depth chart at receiver, or who they have on the roster at receiver, that's not just like a Camp Body or Michael Bandy. Sutton, Mims, Valet, Bryant, Franklin, Sherfield, A.T. Perry, and then hell, let's throw in Michael Bandy. Who's competing for Z snaps? Mims and Franklin, and that's probably, I mean, maybe a little Valet.
Valet too, yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I think there's a much clearer path for those options than slot, just because you're competing with Evan Ingram, with Valet, with Mims, with Pat Bryant, and then Sherfield too, who's a significant signing. I saw some people saying, oh, well, this will all get solved some when Sherfield gets cut. Sherfield's probably not getting cut.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Man, 6 wide receivers make the roster this year. That's interesting. That would be the most in the Broncos Peyton era, I believe, right? I
mean, I
remember
5.
Well, and then first year it was 3. Remember that?
Some of that's just because of how bad it's been, and then like you had Tim Franklin getting injured, and so he was an IR guy. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think all of these are pretty much locks. I think Troy Franklin's the most on the roster bubble out of all of these guys.
Yes.
So I'm going through Sutton, Mims, Valet, Pat Bryant, Sherfield, and then Franklin. I think Franklin would be the one to watch in a training camp.
Sherfield and Franklin are in a similar tier, but yeah, Sherfield's probably a little safer.
Sherfield's the one, man.
And then, but who's pushing for it? You know, like A.T. Perry. I know fans got excited with that idea. He's not pushing those guys for that spot. Michael Bandy's not pushing those guys.
Well, no, I mean, it could just be that they want to keep 5 wide receivers instead of 6, like because also they want to keep an extra lineman or something, you know? This thing could go different ways. All right. Okay. We talked enough about that.
I'm sorry, bro.
Round 3. No, we're all good. I'm having fun with the conversation. Savion Jones, defensive end. LSU, kind of a edge, kind of hybrid interior 4-eye guy that the Broncos drafted. Really long arms, big frame. I think really good Senior Bowl from what I understand. I don't know how much I see him playing in year 1. I think he will play some snaps. I don't think I think he plays snaps in a situation where we kind of have injuries or something like that, because I don't think I want to see him year 1. I don't think he's ready yet, if I'm being honest with you. I think Savion Jones is a developmental piece, has a lot of tools, and a guy that I'm looking forward to the Broncos going out there and developing really good. I think they needed that extra weight from a guy that can kick to the edge place. I mean, you saw it in the Buffalo game, right? What happened in that? We got our teeth kicked in the run game like crazy. They needed this extra size, so I liked the pick. I just think he has a little developing to go. I don't think, unless he exceeds my expectations, totally possible. I'm not always right. I just have to throw that out there. I don't want people thinking that I think I'm always right. But I just think he needs a little more development until I want to see him on the field a ton.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think you want him starting. I do think you want to develop him some this season in season, or play him some so you know, hey, if/when John Franklin Myers leaves after 2025, what type of shape are we in that role on the defensive line? Can Savion Jones be the ready-made replacement, or is he not ready for that? And maybe we have to replace it in the aggregate or something, to use the whole Moneyballism. But I do think he'll play a fairly good bit, though, just because we've talked so much about how, man, they put a lot on Zach Allen. They need to spread the snap count out more this year. And between Jordan Jackson and Uwazurike last year, those two played 375 snaps on defense. So I think there is a sizable role. And again, we're probably saying that role should inflate and expand. Uwazurike only got snaps when things were bumped up and he became that number 5 guy instead of Jordan Jackson. But so again, there's nearly 400 snaps there in the defense. And again, that role probably should be bigger. So you're not putting so much weight on the starters who, are aging and all that. So I think he'll hopefully be ready for such a role. But like you said, he was kind of a traits pick. So we got to see him put it together in camp. And, I think Broncos country should cross their fingers and hope he's ready to absorb some of that workload, because I think that's an important factor for the team this year.
Yeah, I just think also too, like I do think it's going to be kind of like, I don't see him getting edge snaps. I don't see that at all. I don't see that unless there's like a few injuries in the edge group. I could see him get some interior snaps. That's just kind of like, he's a really big edge and he's kind of a smaller interior player. It's how does he stand up there? Are they going to lean towards, hey, we need some more beef? Are we going to play a Uwazurike or something like that on the interior? I could see that in a lot of scenarios. Like, I think the reason I love the pick is because they got their teeth kicked in at the edge spot last year. I don't see him getting those snaps. Does he help your run defense as an interior lineman right now? I don't think so. That's where it gets confusing. I think he is a traits pick, and I want him to – he has an automatic roster spot on this team. He's going to be developed. I need to see him, put some things together. It's a fun pick.
Mm-hmm.
Q Robinson is up next, outside linebacker, pass rusher from Alabama. Special teams ace as well. I think year one, you're looking at him as exactly what I said, is a special teams ace. This is part of the Broncos' new special teams coordinator, rebuilding that special teams room. You've seen a few signings like it in the offseason. Trent Sherfield, who we talked about, being one of them. Q Robinson being a pick for that unit as well. So year one, not seeing the field on defense, I don't think so at all. But I do think
not at all.
I don't think so. I mean, who do you have him playing over?
No one, but I think he'll see the field some, just injuries, attrition, being somewhat in that rotation.
But like, I think we even forget, like, would he play edge snaps over the guy we just talked about, Savion Jones?
I think so.
You think so? Do you think, like,
depending on the circumstance, I think they're different. I think he's more of a DPR than Savion Jones is like an early down guy. Now they have more of a need for the early down guy. So you're probably right. Jones is probably getting more of those snaps, but I think as one of those lighter bodies, he could maybe see the field as a designated pass rusher. I don't think it'd be a large role at all.
It'd be really small. Because he would be your number 5 on the team right now. He'd be your last man.
Ellis played 450 snaps last year. It wouldn't be that big, or on defense last year. It wouldn't be that big of a role. But Tillman was 250, probably wouldn't even be that big. But could he have like 100, 150 snaps here or there? I think that's achievable.
Interesting. Okay. I think he makes the team off of special teams this year, and you're hoping to develop it. That's why he's making your team.
Yes.
And then he has some cool traits to him that you really like as a pass rusher that you're keeping around. And, he's a wild card. Maybe he turns into a designated pass rush type of guy. Now, you can tell with the Broncos and Van Joseph Styles defense, what most teams would describe as designated pass rushers, those are just edge rushers for Vance Joseph and his defense, man. Those aren't designated. Those guys are playing the entire way through. I think Q Robinson very, very much fills the role of what Vance Joseph loves as an edge rusher too. I think he is exactly that. I was looking at some of them recently. It's like, I mean, Nick Benito. I don't know how we didn't see that when like they had Brian Burns, right? Vance Joseph or
Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick, like these type of dudes, these smaller edge rushers. That's just the type of guy he wants.
Yeah, I agree. What he likes and what Peyton likes, because he was drafting the Benito pick was before Joseph even arrived. So similar types there.
Interesting. Yeah, you're right. Let's get to the comments here real quick. Let's see. TW. Q Robinson, inside linebacker, maybe 26, 27. I mean, he is at a stage and raw enough and stuff like that, that if they did it early enough in his career and they're like, this interior pass rush thing's not working out, but we still really love him on special teams, that's how he's going to continue to make this team. Maybe he can carve his role out at inside linebacker. I wouldn't be like extremely mad at it, but that's under the scenario that they look at the edge rusher thing and they're like, it's not working.
Yeah, and so he played that wolf role in the Bama defense. So he was off ball some. I think he could maybe expand that role some, but I think it's more like, wow, this is an edge rusher who we can trust as a dropper in coverage here and there. Not that he's an elite coverage player. Yeah, exactly. Like he's the Benito some. You look at Benito's tape at Oklahoma, you've pointed this out in the past, and he's lined up at inside linebacker on occasion. It was a curveball they threw out there. I think that's probably the extent of it. You know, maybe for a NASCAR package, if you want him as the inside linebacker, like a blitzing inside linebacker, they've got, I think, other alternatives there, like Drew Sanders and whatnot. But like, I think that would kind of be the extent of the inside linebacker role, unless the edge experiment fails and they're like, how else are we going to get this guy on the field? I don't know. Let's try this. I think it'd be a backup plan.
Even Benito this last year, I mean, not playing edge, but dropping back in coverage a lot, or not playing inside linebacker, but dropping back in coverage.
2 big sixes, of course, 2 big plays.
Yeah. That's part of his role there, part of the team. And it's true. I think Q Robinson fits that same type of role. Round 6, pick 216, Jeremy Crawshaw, Hunter, Florida. This is your starter. I mean, they cut the guy that they signed this offseason to draft him. He is your starting punter. Jacob and Frankie were talking about him at Senior Bowl, which I thought was funny. I'm like, why are you guys talking to me about this punter? And then the Broncos drafted him. So he's on the team now. Yeah, I mean, I just think he's your starting punter. I don't know. Zach, you have more info on this guy. I have not looked much into him. I can't get myself wrapped around it to do it. Do you think he has a good or bad season? Just let me know.
I think he's a solid punter right off the bat. You know, not many punters get drafted every year. And it's not like kickers. Like kickers, such a mental position. I think sometimes you see guys get the yips when they get into the NFL. There's like so much pressure on them. They're kicking for their job. With every field goal, you have such a small sample size to try and, you know, keep like a roster spot. You know, punting's just like ability. I don't think you see punters get the yips as much. If I can't think of a time I've seen it happen. And he was a really good punter in college. There's a reason why he was the consensus top punter in this draft. Net was top 10 in all of college football last year. Inside the 20 to touchback ratio was top 10 last year. So he's kicking it really far. He's also able to consistently pin opponents inside the 20 without it going into the end zone for a touchback. That's all you want from your punter. So good, promising signs there. I also think the fact that the Broncos cut Matt Hawk right after the first day of rookie minicamp is maybe the loudest data point we need to hear. They signed Matt Hawk as the insurance option. They kept him after the draft until they got Jeremy Crawshaw in the building for one day. I imagine they saw him punt during that one day, and then they went, all right, we can wrap that up. That's our new punter. No competition needed.
Hack's like, damn, this was the easiest paycheck I ever got. I didn't even have to do it. Like, I didn't even show up. I didn't show up to one practice. I got a fat paycheck. I mean, that guy's living the life. I don't feel bad for him at all. Shout out to that.
He's making a living here as a backup punter for 4 years. That's pretty damn good. Not many people are able to do that. That's a
Go
good
for him.
grift. So I'm sure go to
Good for him.
Alexander.
Yeah, everyone talking about backup quarterback being the best job in the NFL. What about the punter that gets cut before practices start and was signed that same season? I think that's the best job right there, me personally. All right, last one here, Caleb Lohner, tight end, Utah. Like no production in college from this guy. The Broncos are drafting him purely off of traits. Former basketball player. There was a play I think everyone saw. If you've looked up anything on Caleb Lohner, is him boxing a dude out on a little fade route in the back of the end zone. And I mean, it was total box out. It was literally basketball. Get a guy on my back, right there, touchdown. It's what he's done so far. Sean Payton said he likes the traits. They're exciting. This is a roster bubble guy to me. I would lean on that he doesn't make the roster, but I do think there is a chance that he does. If he does make the roster, I would say almost no production.
Yeah, I agree. Almost no production. I do think he might get like a touchdown or two in there. Just because we know Peyton loves like his shiny toys, and this guy is a shiny new toy, like just crazy measurables. And you look at, not that I think he's going to have like anything dynamic, but just like run a fade route with the guy and just like, hey, good luck guarding this monster. I don't know how much development he needs to be able to do that. To be like an effective tight end, yeah, he needs a lot of development. But to have like one or two gadget plays, like, hey, let's use our mismatch freak in the playbook, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd be pissed off if I see him on the field out in there for somebody else that I like. Man, I'll be honest with you.
I think it's very possible. I mean, Nate Adkins had like 5 receiving touchdowns on this team last year. Like I just think the opportunities will be there. I think it's a very small role, kind of like we were talking about with Q Robinson. I think it'll honestly be more gimmick snaps than anything is kind of what I'm getting at. But I think you'll see playing time. I wouldn't be surprised if he has a touchdown this year for that reason. Because I think he's going to be used in those kind of like schemed up, let's use this weird asset we have ways. I think it's kind of 50-50 as to whether or not he makes the roster. All the points you laid out are a great reason for why he could be cut. That tight end room is wide open after Troutman and Ingram is my thing. You've got Kroll and you've got Nate Adkins. Adkins, maybe they keep, but they could move on from Burton. I don't think they will, but they could and have Adkins be the fullback. That would open up a third spot in that tight end room for him. I think he's easily going to beat out Kroll. Adkins also, maybe they view him as redundant with Burton because he kind of has been. I mean, he's the best blocking tight end. I think he's probably safe, but it's Nate Adkins. I don't think he's cemented into a roster spot, so I wouldn't be surprised if either of those guys get pushed. So,
yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree there. Well, guys, please, before you all leave, subscribe, like this video right now. Help us share this video to the world. Zach and I's rookie rankings and clips review. Please help us out. Make sure you guys are going to check letstalkbroncos.com to watch Zach Seeger's beautiful writing on display and everyone else's beautiful writing on display, part of this team. And
grades coming soon. I had to take a little vacation because I was grinding so damn hard for the draft. I was exhausted. Working on the grades article right now. It's coming out ASAP. Sorry,
well, guys, I love you all. And until next time, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.